The courtroom went silent when I walked in. My brother, Ryan Mercer, was already standing at the defense table in a navy suit, smiling like this was just another room he could charm his way out of. Then he saw my face. His smile cracked. Behind him, my mother grabbed the wooden rail so hard her fingers turned white. My father didn't move at all. 4 years ago, those same 2 people threw me out after Ryan told them I had committed a crime. He showed them bank records, emails, and screenshots he said proved I stole from an elderly client at the accounting firm where I interned. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I begged them to listen. My father called me a parasite. My mother packed my suitcase without looking at me. Ryan stood in the hallway, shaking his head like he was disappointed. Now he was the one on trial. I sat behind the bench, opened his case file and said, "Mr. Mercer, please confirm for the record that you understand the charges against you." Ryan's lawyer leaned toward him, whispering fast. Ryan didn't answer right away. He stared at me like I had climbed out of a grave he personally buried. 4 years earlier, I slept in my car outside a gas station with a garbage bag full of clothes in the passenger seat. I called my parents until my phone died. The next morning, both numbers were blocked. No charges were filed against me, no arrest, no trial, but Ryan's fake proof had already done its job. Birthdays passed, holidays passed. My parents posted photos online with Ryan at the center of every table, captioned like they only had one child. And now, in this courtroom, my mother's lips trembled as she realized the daughter she erased was sitting above the son she protected. Ryan finally swallowed and said, "You knew this was my case." I looked down at the file, then back at him. "No," I said, "but I know exactly what you're capable of." After my parents threw me out, I spent 3 weeks living in a roadside motel that smelled like bleach and cigarette smoke. Every morning, I checked my phone, hoping one of them had finally answered. Nothing. I kept sending updates anyway. The firm didn't press charges. Detectives found inconsistencies. I was never arrested. No response ever came. At night, I replayed everything in my head, trying to understand how Ryan convinced them so quickly. He had walked into the house carrying a folder like a prosecutor, printed emails, bank transfers, security screenshots. My father barely looked at me before deciding I was guilty. A few months later, I saw my mother outside a grocery store near our old neighborhood. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked thinner, nervous. I followed her into the parking lot. "Mom." She froze beside her car. "Please," I said, "just listen to me for 2 minutes." She kept staring at her keys. "The investigators already said there are problems with the evidence." Still nothing. "Mom, I didn't do this." That's when she finally spoke. "Ryan showed us enough." The second she said it, something clicked in my head. Those were his exact words from the night I got thrown out. Not hers, his. I watched her drive away without looking back. After that, I started noticing things I ignored before. Ryan handled all my parents' finances after my father's construction business failed. He paid their mortgage, controlled their investments, scheduled their appointments. Even when we were kids, he answered questions for everyone before they could speak themselves. Then I learned someone had accessed the accounting firm database using credentials copied from my laptop. I told detectives Ryan had been inside my apartment before. One detective shrugged. "Your brother been very cooperative." Cooperative. I lost friends after the rumors spread online. Former co-workers stopped replying to me. One woman at a coffee shop recognized my name from social media and quietly moved her purse farther away from me. That was the moment I stopped trying to get my old life back. Instead, I started building a new one. I worked nights waitressing, took community college classes during the day, eventually transferred into law school, then came internships, clerkships, exams, appointments. Years passed. I never contacted Ryan once. Then, 3 days before his trial, an envelope appeared under my apartment door with no return address. Inside were copies of old bank transfers tied to Ryan. Large withdrawals. Casino deposits. Dates circled in red. One date matched the exact week I was framed. And at the bottom of the final page, someone had handwritten 6 words. He did the same thing to you. News vans crowded the courthouse steps before sunrise. By the time I arrived, reporters were already speaking into cameras. Judge assigned to fraud case is defendant's estranged sister. Questions are now being raised about impartiality. Some are calling this a revenge trial. I kept walking. Cameras flashed the entire way to the courthouse entrance. Inside, the atmosphere was worse. Every seat in the gallery was filled. Journalists lined the back wall. Even the clerks looked tense. Ryan sat beside his attorney, calm on the surface, but I noticed his jaw flex the second I entered. His lawyer stood immediately. Your Honor, given the personal history involved here, we believe there are serious concerns regarding bias. The room stirred. I folded my hands together. The defense may file any motion it believes appropriate. Ryan finally looked directly at me. You've waited 4 years for this, he said. The entire courtroom went still. I didn't react. Instead, I turned to his attorney. If the defense wishes to request reassignment, procedures are available. That answer seemed to throw Ryan off more than anger would have. Then the prosecution introduced new financial records. The lead prosecutor walked toward the jury box holding several binders. These records show the defendant transferred retirement funds from multiple elderly clients into shell accounts over a 3-year period. Murmurs spread across the gallery. An older woman in the front row suddenly started crying. That money was my house, she whispered. That was everything I had. For the first time since I'd seen him again, Ryan looked nervous. Not scared. Panicked. Then another detail surfaced. A forensic handwriting analyst testified that one forged client's signature matched manipulation patterns found in earlier fabricated financial documents connected to a prior investigation. My investigation. The courtroom shifted instantly. People started connecting the dots. Outside during recess, reporters swarmed my parents. Do you regret cutting contact with your daughter? Did your son manipulate your family? My father snapped first. My son made mistakes, he barked, but Hannah's not innocent either. The clip spread online within hours. By evening, judicial ethics officials contacted the courthouse to review whether I could remain on the case at all. Then I finally opened the rest of the anonymous envelope. Folded between the bank statements was an old casino receipt. Ryan's name was printed across the top. The timestamp matched the exact night my parents threw me out. And scribbled beside it, in different handwriting than before, were 3 words. Check table 17. The next morning, I brought the envelope directly to the prosecution team before court began. The lead prosecutor spread the documents across a conference table, while investigators photographed everything. This withdrawal alone is almost $40,000, one investigator muttered. Another flipped through the casino receipts. Same week, the accounting firm reported missing client funds. I stayed silent while they connected the timeline themselves. Then forensic analysts compared the forged signatures from Ryan's current fraud case to the evidence originally used against me 4 years earlier. Same formatting habits. Same editing patterns. Same digital layering artifacts. One analyst looked up slowly. These were made by the same person. That should have felt satisfying. Instead, it made my stomach turn. Because reopening what happened to me threatened the current trial, the prosecutors warned me privately that my connection to the evidence could force me off the case entirely. If this becomes personal involvement instead of procedural oversight, one attorney said carefully, recusal may be unavoidable. Meanwhile, Ryan started unraveling. Before the afternoon hearing, I saw him corner my mother near the hallway outside the witness rooms. You never actually saw the originals, he hissed quietly. Remember that. My mother looked shaken. Ryan leaned closer. You just trusted me, that's all you say. For the first time in 4 years, she didn't answer him immediately. That hesitation changed everything. Later that afternoon, detectives reopened archived records from the investigation that destroyed my life. Within hours, they found something buried in the original evidence logs. Ryan himself had delivered the evidence packet to investigators before they officially requested supporting documentation. He inserted himself into the case before anyone questioned him. I confronted my father privately in my chambers after learning that. He closed the door behind him. "You're tearing this family apart," he said. I stared at him across the desk. "Ryan already did that. He's still your brother. He stopped acting like that a long time ago." My father's face hardened. "You always hated him for succeeding." That almost made me laugh. Instead, I opened a file and turned the screen toward him. Investigators had recovered deleted metadata from the forged documents. Creation source: Ryan Mercer's home desktop. My father went completely still. Before he could speak, someone pounded on the chamber door. A court deputy stepped inside. "Your Honor, prosecutors are requesting an emergency evidentiary hearing immediately." Minutes later, the courtroom filled again. Reporters squeezed shoulder to shoulder along the walls. Ryan looked around nervously as prosecutors organized stacks of exhibits. Then suddenly, Ryan stood up. His attorney grabbed his sleeve. "Sit down." Ryan pulled away and looked straight at our parents. Then at me. "If I talk," he said coldly, "this family burns with me." The courtroom exploded into whispers after Ryan's outburst. His attorney tried pulling him back into his seat, but the damage was already done. Every reporter in the room was typing furiously. My mother looked like she might faint. The prosecutor stood slowly. "Your Honor, the state is prepared to present additional forensic evidence." I nodded once. Proceed." One by one, investigators dismantled everything Ryan built 4 years earlier. The fake bank records used against me had originated from Ryan's personal desktop computer. Metadata timestamps showed the files were edited after Ryan claimed he had discovered them. Investigators also proved he copied credentials from my laptop weeks before money disappeared from the accounting firm. The prosecutor walked toward the jury screen. "Mr. Mercer accrued substantial gambling debt over several months," she explained. When internal audits threatened exposure, he redirected suspicion toward his sister, who had temporary database access through her internship. Casino records appeared on-screen. Transfer histories. Deleted emails recovered from backups. Forged screenshots layered together digitally. Every piece fit together cleanly. Ryan had stolen client money slowly, then buried me under fabricated evidence before anyone could question him. The anonymous envelope finally made sense too. Ryan's former girlfriend was called as a witness. She testified that she discovered his gambling addiction years earlier and secretly kept financial records after suspecting he was lying about his debts. "When I saw Hannah on the news," she said quietly, "I realized what he'd done to her." Behind the defense table, my mother started crying hard enough that people nearby turned to look at her. A detective testified next. At no point was Hannah Mercer considered the primary suspect once financial inconsistencies emerged. My father lowered his head for the first time since the trial began. Ryan snapped. "She always does this," he shouted suddenly. "Everyone always feels sorry for Hannah." His attorney grabbed his arm again. "Stop talking." But Ryan kept going. "She wanted them to believe she was the victim." I watched him unravel in complete silence. 4 years earlier, he stood in my parents' hallway pretending to be disappointed while my life collapsed around me. Now everyone finally saw him clearly. The golden son. The successful financial advisor. The trusted brother. A fraud. Because the evidence now directly connected to my own past, I formally recused myself from sentencing proceedings later that afternoon. Another judge took over to avoid any ethical conflict. The outcome didn't change. Ryan was convicted on multiple fraud charges, evidence tampering, and financial exploitation of vulnerable clients. Civil lawsuits followed immediately. His professional licenses were revoked within days. News coverage spread across the state, detailing how he manipulated elderly victims and framed his own sister to protect himself. After court adjourned, I walked outside through a side exit. My parents were waiting near the courthouse steps. For a second, nobody spoke. Then my mother broke first. "I'm sorry," she whispered through tears. "Please, Hannah." My father looked older than I remembered. "I chose the easier child to believe," he said quietly. I stared at both of them. For 4 years, I imagined hearing those words. But standing there, I realized innocence didn't erase anything. Not sleeping in my car. Not losing my career. Not spending birthdays alone, while my family pretended I no longer existed. "I needed parents," I said. "You gave me a verdict instead." Neither of them had an answer. A month later, I transferred to another district court and started over somewhere quieter. I kept my life small, peaceful, intentional. My parents still send letters sometimes. Most stay unopened. Ryan remains in prison awaiting additional civil judgments tied to the stolen retirement accounts. The night they threw me out, my parents thought they were protecting the family. 4 years later, they learned they had destroyed the only innocent person in it.